Hi everyone, Keith Thompson here. Today on KT Break, we're going to be talking to a friend of mine. We go back a long way, Mr. Mark Cole from Gloucestershire, UK. He's essentially a blues man. He plays in a band called Sons of the Delta, either as a duo or a full band. He'll tell you about that. We're also in a band together called the Gigantics, which is kind of a folk Americana, more acoustic roots thing. But he's got his own way of playing, his own sort of philosophy of music, and it's going to be interesting. I hope you stick around and enjoy it, and keep watching. See ya. Okay, Mark Cole is my guest today, and
Hi,
me and
everybody.
Mark are in a band together called the Gigantics, which is an Americana kind of folk band. How you doing, Mark?
I'm good. I'm good. Thanks, Keith. Yeah, very good. How you doing?
I'm all right. I think I first became aware of you around in the 80s when you were in a band called Maxwell Street Blues Band. Is that
Yeah,
right?
yeah, that's
Um,
right. Yeah,
was that your
82.
first band?
It was. Yeah, I was a bit of a late starter. I don't think I started as early as you. I was in my early 20s, I think, when I got into it. Yeah.
Yeah. And did you sing or did you play an instrument then?
Primarily, I was a singer,
Right.
and then the band decided they wanted to get better value for money out of me, so they said you better go off and learn an instrument. So I'd always been into slide guitar, so I learned how to tune the guitar for sort of slide and
Right.
learned some stuff. And then a short while after that, they said, "What about harmonica? You know, that'd be
Aha.
good." So I went off and bought a harmonica and started teaching myself that as well. So they obviously felt I wasn't good value for money just as a vocalist.
Excellent. So it all started in the 80s there. So
Yeah,
I think I met you when I was working in a studio in Breedon, Gloucestershire, in the
that's it.
UK, and you
Yeah,
came in with a band called the Dockery Boys.
that's right. Yeah,
Well, tell
yeah,
us about the Dockery Boys.
well, they came together as we wanted to do something a little different, and there was quite a growing scene for like Cajun and Zydeco, you know, like Louisiana roots music, with bands like the Balam Alligators and Arcadian coming up during the 80s. So we thought let's put a bluesy Cajun-y band together, which was quite contemporary then. I mean, there's a lot of similar bands. It's the kind of sound that is taking off more now, really. But yeah, we
Yeah,
we uh, we did that, and we did a few albums, and we did the one in FFG. I think that was the last CD. So I
yeah,
played. I think I did a bit of harmonica, but I was mostly sort of squeeze box and singing
yeah. So a
with that
bit like
band.
the Gigantics, only with a bit of punk thrown in.
Yeah. Gigantics with attitude kind of thing. And Marty actually was the drummer as well. You know,
Right.
so he
Yeah,
was in
yeah.
that.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, I also remember calling you in to do a session. I think it was on my first Brambus album, the one that I signed to this label in Europe, and they were
That's it.
based in Switzerland. And I thought, I'll get a squeeze box on it. And so we got you
Yeah,
in to do that. Do you remember that?
I remember that. Yeah, I do. I do indeed. Did you ever
Uh,
pay me for that? I can't remember.
well, I can't remember. Long
I know
time
I'm
ago.
making, yeah, I'm
Long
teasing.
time ago. But you did a few sessions over there as well, didn't you? Various
Yeah,
instruments.
yeah, we did for Nick.
That's right,
Uh,
Nick John.
that's it, and he had the was it Castle or
Well,
it was
Music Masters was
Music
his
Masters.
company. Yeah, did a
That's it.
lot of kind of library music and stuff.
That's it, and we did a whole bunch of Cajun line dance albums.
Yeah,
It was good money, you know. We were sort of session work for the day. We
yeah,
had to learn a bunch of songs at a certain BPM, the line dances. And the first one we did was all covers, but the second one, he said, if you've got any of your own numbers that you want to put on, you know. So he
yeah,
did. So that was great. I still get a few trick. He must be still relicensing that stuff because I get
yeah. That's right. Still get a
little
few
trickle.
royalties.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, trickle in from that. Yeah.
Well, it was a good job back in the day, wasn't it? I mean, we were churning them out. I mean, we were churning them out, and I was the engineer and did a few guitar sessions and stuff, and we were just getting through those albums. I was thinking,
Yeah.
who's buying this stuff? But it
Yeah.
was a
Good
job,
fun.
you know.
It was, and it was good fun. It was, you know, it was
Yeah,
all of the music was sort of within our ballpark of the stuff that we like doing from our point of view. Certainly, anyway, you know, it's stuff we enjoy playing anyway.
yeah.
Doing sort of Cajun versions of what was that Steps number? 5, 6, 7, 8 or something,
All right.
or Cotton Eye Joe or
No,
whatever.
it's all a
But,
blur. I
but
can't
it
remember.
was good fun. It was good fun. Yeah, it was good fun.
Great. But you're really a blues man at heart, aren't you? And I can't really go without asking you about Sons of the Delta, because that's probably what you're most known for, isn't it?
Yeah, I think what's probably that and the Gigantics together, both together nowadays. I think they're probably about level pegging. But yeah, certainly Rick Edwards and myself put the Sons of the Delta together a long time ago now. I reckon it's got to be getting on for 20 years ago, probably now, 15, 20 years ago, more than 15. But yeah, I started off as a duo. In fact, our first gig I think was Gloucester Blues Fest, the first Gloucester, or one of the early Gloucester Blues festivals, and we had the honour of having. Do you remember he's dead now, bless him, but Sam Mitchell, who was like a National Steel player.
Oh yeah,
I can't remember why he was in England, because I think he was living over in Belgium or somewhere at the time, but he happened to introduce himself to us at halftime and said, "Oh, I'm really enjoying it, guys. You're doing a great job." And that was our first gig, so that was mind-blowing, really, but a real encouragement to keep going.
Right.
So I think we would have done anyway. But yeah, so and we gigged as a duo for a while, and then in 2004 we went over to Clarksdale, Mississippi, and recorded that album.
Well, one of my favourite Sons of the Delta albums, actually, Made in Mississippi. Tell us about that, because that's interesting.
One day in the studio, all done in one day. A lot of original material, but what we would call familiar originals. So it lent heavily on certain styles, because what you had to remember is that the bass player and the drummer, Jeff Hayes and Eric, that we had in the studio, they'd not really played with us much before. They jammed with us a few nights earlier, because they played with a guy called Big T Williams, and who guests on one of the songs on the album. And he kind of loaned us to us, and we got together and we did a gig at his juke joint, and they joined us in the studio, and we had Pine Top Perkins in for a couple of tracks, which was amazing. Yeah, he was 94. I think he was 94, maybe 92, 93, 94 when he came in. Could still play brilliantly. And we also had Sam Carr on a couple of tracks, the legendary, one of the Jelly Roll Kings, who's actually Robert Nighthawk's son. And he features in one of the Scorsese Blues series. I think the one with Corey Harris talks to him, has a chat with him on the porch. So it was an awesome day, but obviously we had to do stuff that was going to be familiar to them. So although it was original songs, they had to be in a familiar feel so that they could just jam. So it was really a jam album, really. Songs that Rick and I, we'd written and that we knew. But yeah, it was an amazing day. It was absolutely superb.
Yeah, Clarksdale's almost your spiritual home, isn't it? Really now.
Yeah, I've been going back not every year for various, partly financial and partly we like to go at certain times when around certain festivals, and it's not always possible because sometimes you get other things booked. You got gigs to do and festivals to do, so you've got to try and get it at the right time, But yeah, no, it is pretty much a spiritual home. Yeah, very much.
Yeah, brilliant. So, so how many albums did Sons of the Delta do then?
We did the original duo one, then we did Made in Mississippi, which was, there were a couple of kind of acoustic-y tracks, but most of it were with other musicians. And when we got back, that helped us get more gigs as a band. So we had Adrian Dean on bass originally, and Marty from the Dockeries on drums. So we still carried on doing duo gigs, but we did quite a few more band gigs then. And then we did Tasty Nuggets was the third album, and that was pretty much a band album. Again, with maybe 2 or 3 tracks with me and Rick on doing guitar and harp with a few embellishments. Maybe it didn't have drums on or whatever, but it was mostly a band album. And then we did that Red Hot at Pepper's, the live acoustic album with me and Rick at Pepper's Cafe in Gloucester, which was part of one of the Gloucester Blues festivals that we recorded. So it's just the 4 at the moment.
And Tasty Nuggets, of course, was recorded in Mono Valley, wasn't it?
Mono Valley, which was Rockfield Studios' sister studio. Yeah,
fantastic.
And that was a one-day thing as well. We went in, we did it away. A lot of bands do it, I think, nowadays is we got the core of the material live in the studio, and then Rick just, added in a few solos, maybe a second guitar. I maybe added in a guitar. Some of the Ghost vocals I did, we actually kept because they were really good. And then some of the vocals I redid, and some of the touching up we did at Plump Hill Studios with Aaron, who we've used with the Gigantics. You know, we've done a lot of recording with the Gigantics. Yeah. Aaron's great. He really knows his stuff. Yeah. So,
and played with quite a few different people over the years. Probably too many to mention, but I just thought I'd just mention the Meyer brothers. Is that the Myers brothers?
Yeah.
How'd that come about?
Well, long story short, which, as you know, which isn't my best skill, but I'll try and keep it brief. I met the Myers over in Clarksdale in Mississippi in 2005. That was a solo trip for me. I just went over, to catch up with the friends that we'd made the previous year. And I met them there, and they kind of adopted me as the harp player. They did some gigs around town. That was during one of the festivals there, the Duke Joint Festival. And we stayed in touch. And then in 2010, I think, or 2011, I went over to Ottawa, Canada, where they're from, and did some gigs with them and played on an album they were recording at the time. And in 2012, I got them over to Gloucester. We played Gloucester Blues Festivals and did a bunch of gigs with them. And I think I reposted a picture on Facebook from that a few days ago from one of the gigs. And then I've been over to Ottawa. We've met up again a few times in Clarksdale. We were due to go this year, meet up again, but we'll have to postpone that till next year. So yeah, we've got this on. We decided we'd get, when we went over to Clarksdale, the last time we were over there, we recorded a whole bunch of songs at the Shack Up Inn. So it was a bit similar to what we did with Sons of the Delta. We set up with BJ, who's a great drummer, a great local drummer there. We set up with him and at the place called the Duke Joint Chapel, which is at the Shack Up Inn. Charlie Musselwright's recorded an album there. It's a great big sort of tin shack place. And we recorded, again, a load of what I call bass tracks, the rhythm, guitar, harp, and then Mike's got the same software that I've got. So again, we redid the vocals, added a few other bits of instruments, and we sent tracks backwards and forwards, mixed them together, with modern technology now, as you do. So because obviously we don't play live much, we decided it's not worth doing a CD. So we put out a digital EP of 5 tracks. We could just call it Volume 1, but we couldn't be that imaginative about it. And when we get together, we've already started working on Volume 2. And we did a Christmas song last year, which was great fun. Features Jane Pearl, lovely lady Jane Pearl, that does some talking on there. And we brought it out literally just a week or two before Christmas, but we have big plans to re-release it properly at the end of November, beginning of December, and really push it. It's a really good song. A few people that have heard it said it should be a hit. It's very accessible. It's got a real sort of Latin beat. But sorry,
from being a singer in the Maxwell Street Blues Band, you've done quite a lot over the years, really.
Yeah. And the latest thing I should just quickly say, our mutual friend. Well, you introduced him to me, really. Big Gilson. He's asked me to guest on his new album, so he sent me
Brazil Next.
Yeah. So I've done some harp on one track on his album there so far, which is a lot of fun because, as you know, he's a real sort of rock and roller, blues, rock and roll slide guitar player, and it was a lot of energy in the track, so it was great fun doing some harp for him. So that was in the not too distant. So yeah.
Well, talking of rock and roll guitars, I see you have an array of guitars, and well, actually, you're quite well known for being a collector of old and battered instruments and amplifiers and things, aren't you? So I see all these guitars back there. Tell us about these then. I'll hand over to you and you can run through them.
All right, I'm just going to have a sip of water. This talking dries you out.
Okay.
Usually I've got a beer, but it's a bit early for beer.
It's vodka, really, I know.
Well, this is my go-to guitar that I use with Sons of the Delta, the duo, and and the band. It's It's a reproduction of an old 1960s Supro guitar. It's made by Eastwood, the Canadian company, and they just did a limited edition run with the Supro badge. But I love it because it's great for slide. So if you can just about see the top of this snakeskin amp here, that's an old Silvertone head, and I built it myself into this cab. I built the cab and put it in there, put the Cadillac badge on. I think you can just about see it. I'll have a look over it. Yeah, you can. You can just see the Cadillac badge there, 2 10-inch speakers. I'm going to plug it in, give you an idea what it sounds like. Getting caught up on everything, as you do. Open tuning, of course, for slide, but it's got a really nice really nice sustain, and it just keeps going and going. So it's got a really nice,
That's a really low tuning, that as well. What's that?
D. That's just an open D.
Right.
So if you roll off the bottom end a bit, it's really nice for roll off the top rather. It's nice for that, It's got a really nice, tone.
Very authentic sound,
Yeah. And one of the reasons I started getting these old funky guitars is my first ever electric guitar was an old Teisco, although I didn't know that for years. And I carved it up and sanded it down and put stickers on, much to my shame now. It's not an especially valuable guitar, but it's a rarity, and I've obviously ruined it by doing that. But although Rick now in Sons of the Delta, although he's got some pretty weird, wild and funky guitars himself, originally, because we like to mix up the acoustic and electric, he tended to use sort of Strats and Tellys. Yeah. And I thought, well, there's no point in me using the similar guitars. It's nice for textures and tone to have something that sounds different. As you know, with a band, it's nice to have that separation. So even with the duo, it's nice to have like tonal and textural differences. So I thought, well, if I get these weird, wacky old Plank, cheap and cheerful old catalogue guitars, there's going to be that difference in sound, and as you said, it gives it a more authentic, down home kind of feel, So that's
absolutely
that one. And I use this one. This is probably my oldest guitar. This is a very, very early Teisco. As you can see, it's got the original Teisco. It's not a lot of them were Teisco Del Rey, because they were rebranded by. I can't remember the name of the company, JIT, but they imported them from Japan, and they're the ones that put the crown on and called them Teisco Del Rey. So they sort of rebranded them, and they were sold in catalog, a Sears and Roebuck catalog. So a lot of the old blues guys used to use either Airline guitars or Harmonies, Stellas, and Teiscos, because a lot of them lived rurally. There was no local music shop, so they would just buy these guitars out of catalogs, Sears and Roebuck, and what's the Airline one? I can't remember the ones that Airline was in. Anyway, but another one anyway. So, but this one I bought from an American serviceman, or the son of an old American serviceman who was in Japan after the Second World War. So this is a Japanese, supposed to be a Japanese copy, a very early Japanese copy of the Les Paul. And I think it's mid 50s. It's like 55 or 56. So it's got these old, shiny sort of chrome pickup things. I like the Japanese spelling of guitar. Can you read that? Is it blurred? Can you read it?
I can't quite see it.
But it says Goiter. It's Guiter, which is great. Guitar, Goiter. But this one, I still use it in the duo. I love the chicken beak selector switch, but I use this one in the duo because it's good for doing sort of like John Lee Hooker kind of things. It's got the right tone for that. You know, it's got that. And that's the front pickup. If you stick it in the middle,
Yeah.
It's got a real twang to it, you know. That's just nasty, the back one. Not usable, the back one, but very
It's
very
that
weird.
sort of natural distorted sort of sound. Is that coming from the amp or the guitar, or a bit of both?
Mostly the guitar. I think there is a bit of you know, it's cranked up a bit, the amp, but that skank, that I think a lot of it's to do with because it's just a really small body. But look how thin that neck is.
Yeah,
it's almost, you know, ridiculously thin. And can you see it's got the triangular profile as well? You know, a triangle neck. It's really weird.
Yeah.
So that's probably my oldest guitar. Shortly followed by this beast that I bought a year or two ago. This is it's a 57 Framus. It's a German company. You've probably heard of Framus.
Yeah.
And
they're famous, that Framus.
Famous Framus, yeah. Someone had put a modern pickup on it. So I took that off. And I've always fancied having an old Harmony, like a Harmony Hollywood. Yeah. You know, from the 50s, you know, those really big old F-hole guitar. Again, you know, to get a real traditional kind of sound. Yeah. But they go for so much money now. But I did manage to get this, which is a 58 Harmony pickup, which is the same pickup off the old Harmony Hollywood guitars. And this one, this is the one on my solo album on Cole. This is the one I used on a Saturday night.
Oh, right, okay.
So it's got a real beefy sound. And I also used it, but a lot cleaner, on the Love Is Blind, the jazzy feeling one.
Right, okay.
So this one's so that's really got a big low end, you know. Yeah. So it's, you know, really really beefy. If you roll the back end off, it's great for that sort of Elmore James. A bit rusty, but so, you know, it's that's a real thumper, that one.
Yeah.
This one is similar to the other one. I'm showing you this one because I bought this on our first trip to America.
Yeah, it looks like you could get that in a suitcase.
I did, actually. I think I unscrewed the neck and just put it in the suitcase. And it's from, I don't know what, it's a weird serial number there, but it's an Alamo Fiesta, another crappy old catalog guitar. Okay. And this one I used on the Honey Slide on the album. So it's in a weird tuning, like you know, like a minor tuning, but you know, real nasty. Yeah. The guy I bought it off, it's from Taylor's Guitars, which isn't there anymore, in Memphis. Brilliant guitar shop. It was just a house, a converted house. Yeah. With all the guitars. I think he lived upstairs, and he had all these amazing guitars downstairs. And I bought that one, and I brought it back. Yeah. So.
I mean, you don't play orthodox tuning much, do you?
I don't play much at all at the moment. I should have warmed up a bit before we did it.
Yeah. No,
lots of bum notes in there, but it doesn't really matter. It's about just demonstrating the sound, really.
Yeah, it's interesting stuff.
One more thing I wanted to say about this is one of the reasons I love this is it's got, I got it signed by some of the people we'd worked with over there. So I've got somewhere, that's Pinetop Perkins.
Ah, brilliant.
Sam Carr's signature running along there. I've got Jimbo Mathis's signature on it. Oh. Jeff Hayes signed it. Oh, and Calvin Fuzz Jones, who used to play bass with Muddy Waters. So in
All
Muddy
right, so
Waters,
even though it didn't cost you much, that might be worth something now. What do you think?
it might be. I've got various other Jeff the drummer. I've got trouble is some of them are fading, so I need to varnish it or do something. I keep it in a bag, but
Yeah.
for a while, the European Blues Association had it in a glass case in Gloucester Library in their offices there for a little while. So that's a nice sort of souvenir.
Yeah, fantastic. So, how many instruments do you actually play?
Oh, squeeze box, most sort of stringed instruments, harmonica, mandolin, as you know, with the jigs and that. I play a bit of mandolin. I don't play any of them fantastically well, but I get a lot of pleasure out of trying out stuff. So I'm not, by my own admission, I'm not the world's greatest student. So I tend to be self-taught, and I've been told I've developed a knack of doing what's a great phrase that someone taught me: serve the song. You know, with any instrument, anything anyone plays on a song should be about serving the song. It should, like a little riff or a little something that adds something to the song.
Like the icing on the cake.
Yeah. So the beauty for me about not being a consummate player on anything, but being able to, I like to think, well, I've been told that I can find some nice things that really add something to the song, a texture or a riff or whatever that elevates it a little bit, and I'm quite happy doing that because, as you know, primarily singing, but it's nice to be able to double up with maybe a vocal hook or something on guitar.
And then the band gets good value for money as well.
Yeah. I learned my lesson back in the 80s.
Yeah. So what's this one you got there then?
Well, whenever I go to Turkey, because I haven't been there recently, but it used to be a favourite holiday destination. I brought back a saz, which is like the 6-string instrument, and I saw this in one of the shops, and it's kind of like a banjo look. It's got a skin on it, like a drum skin, but it's you can also cook with it. It's like an aluminium pot, and I'm sure I haven't tuned it right, but I've got it. If you look at it, in effect, it's a 12-string. It's a 12-string fretless banjo, really. That's what it is. So not quite in tune. I used it on. This is used on Honey Slide as well to do to do a little a little riff on there. But so it's a. So it's
yeah, that's great.
Ideal for slides. I mean, I wouldn't dare to try and play it like a guitar, but good fun for. And like I say, trouble is you buy this, it wasn't cheap, but it did come with a bag. But I didn't have to justify it to anyone, so I just bought it. Look at that. How's that for? You can adjust the action. That massive wing nut on the side. You can adjust it. If only guitars had that.
Looks like it's made out of a frying pan or something.
Yeah, or a bed pan or something like that. But yeah, I just thought I'd get
fantastic.
That a bit of fun. And then some of the funky old amps. This is an old Bell and Howell portable movie projector speaker. So you can put an amp on that, and that sounds great. Then back here, I've got, that's another old, I used that for years. They call that one a SpongeBob. Yeah. Because it looks like SpongeBob SquarePants. But that's an old, like 30-watt valve. That's an old Silvertone amp as well. Obviously, lurking in the back there, I've got my Fat Tone amps harmonica. That's purely for a harmonica, that one there. Brought back with that little brown leatherette one. I think I've used that with you when I've sort of sat in on harmonica at Tubby's Blues Club. I think I brought that along.
Yeah, looks familiar, yeah.
Yeah, that's an old 50s Radiotronics Industries of Chicago, an old valve amp. I bought that one at Taylor's Guitars in Memphis as well and brought that one back. So that's an old little 5-watt valve thing. That's brilliant. And this, just to show that you can pick up stuff from car boot sales, this skanky little thing down here is it's like a 30-watt transistor. It's an amp built by Tasco. I have no idea how it got into the UK, but I found it at a local car boot sale for like 15 quid. It's supposed to be a bass and organ amplifier, and it's nasty. I won't even plug it in, but if you imagine one of those very trebly guitars that I played in something like that, it sounds like you're listening to it through a Bakelite telephone or something. So, but again, you never know. On an album, you may want a track where something comes in, kind of just again to add, like I say about serving the song, add a little bit of texture in.
That brings me neatly to I was going to mention your solo album, which it's called Cold, isn't it? Is that the only solo album you've done?
It is, and it took me 30 years to do that.
30 years to do the debut solo album, But the thing is, you have an unorthodox, shall I say, way of playing and putting that whole thing together. It struck me as being a sort of a collaboration between sort of old but new technology as well. Do you want to tell us about that?
Yeah. I mean, it is pretty much a solo album. I've got some guest drummers on there because I did play drums on a couple of tracks, but stuff that just needed a thump, really basic stuff. So I've got some guest drummers on, but apart from that, I played all the instruments. So it's one of those weird situations where what you tend to do is you'll write the song on whatever instrument you're using. So some of the songs, there's one song I play on mostly on banjo, which is Let Me Down, which I believe we might hear later on at the end. So that track, I learnt it on the banjo. So that was obviously what I wrote it on. So that's what I played on the song. So what I do is once I've got the idea of what I want in the song in my head, I'd set up with get the recording stuff set up, and then I'd play along with the click track in my ear. I mean, that's the secret really, especially if you haven't got the drums and the bass to start off with. And you play whatever you're going to play on the rhythm track and do a ghost vocal, and then you can add the rest of it. So you can add the bass, then add the drums, and then obviously your drummer's got something to drum with because he can play along with the same click track, and as long as you're in time, he knows. But then he's got something to play too, because you can't say to a drummer, "You play the drums and I'll sing when I get." He's got to have stuff to play too. And then you can elaborate. If you can put a harmonica solo on, second guitar. I think I used some keyboards, a little bit of keyboards. No squeeze box on there, but a bit of keyboards. So you build it up in layers really, and sometimes you've got a really good idea of how you want it to sound, and sometimes you've got half an idea, and you just have to play around with different things again to see what serves the song, to see what gives.
But it's blues, really, isn't it? Basically blues, but quite creative and imaginative way of putting things together. It's not just down and out 12-bar blues kind of thing, I'll
tell you a secret, Keith. I've got to work within my limitations.
Yeah. But that's interesting. You are more of an instinctive kind of musician.
Yeah.
And,
I mean, totally learn by ear, on everything.
Yeah.
So.
And I know in the Gigantics we have a saying, don't we, that we don't like the labels much, so if it's a good song, it's a good song. We're going to do it,
Absolutely.
So that's probably is that your philosophy? I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Yeah,
but
I've got to, obviously, as you quite rightly said, I consider myself primarily sort of a blues musician because that's what really turned me on to American roots music. That was my first port of call really, and then I got into Cajun and soul and other stuff, and obviously the sort of hillbilly and so you got your black roots music and the white roots music, and most of it from the south and the states around there. So that's what I love. It's that whole sort of mishmash of style. So there's a lot of that going on, and I love stuff like Ry Cooder. I'm a big Tom Waits fan, and some of his stuff is really eclectic. But he sort of proves that you can mix some real gritty blues stuff and then some really quite soft ballads. You can mix it up. There's a lot of it's to do with the production, even though different songs have different instrumentation. As long as the album production has got the similar ethos and nothing is too diverse, it does all gel together. You can be. I think a lot of musicians could be more adventurous than they really know.
I'm sure you're right. I'm sure you're right.
And it'll still all come together really nicely,
And you just love it, really, don't you? I mean, you're one of these people that need to do it somehow. Even lockdown, you managed to find a way, didn't you?
Yeah, I'm afraid it's it's almost a bit of a drug, you know. I think early on with music, it's something that you feel that, especially if you learn by ear, and it seems to come, albeit, like I say, I'm not super consummate on any instrument, but I love music. I love playing stuff, and I seem to be able to pick up stuff and find mind you, it's taken me a long time to get there, but by osmosis sort of find what works in the song. And I just love that whole process. I love performing, so I really do miss performing. And as you know, I'm lucky that I have a tiny little public area right next to my place, which is a nice secret little area. And I've been able to, within all of the socially distancing rules, I've been able to put on some little duo performances with some of the locals there. And I love that. I think I'd struggle if I couldn't do the gigs. If I couldn't do it in front of an audience, I would struggle. So I think that I've been stuck here I know it sounds a bit grand, and I don't want it to sound too silly or cliched, but I do feel that I've been put here to, you know, make a bit of music, talk a bit of nonsense, and, you know, just entertain people. And I think you and I are the same in so much as that we know that when we do a gig, the music's important, but people quite often have spent money to come out. They've had a long week and they want to relax. They want to have a good time and be entertained. So I think it's the whole thing. It's the music and the entertainment thing. And I think that's what I've been put here to do.
It's making a connection with people as well, isn't it? Which is what you said, you
absolutely.
like to play in front of a real audience, even if it's only 10 people, you know, like in your garden.
We're soul doctors, Keith. We're soul doctors. Yeah. That's what we are.
Yeah, it's connecting with people. Yeah, that's fantastic. So
I love that.
I think we'll leave it at that. That's been great to chat, Mark. And we're going to play out with one of your songs off the album. I've got the album here, so hang on a minute. This is Cole. So check it out.
Yeah, thank you.
And we're going to play a track off that. Let Me Down, is it?
Let Me Down, yeah. I made a little video out of old footage. It's a bit of fun, so I hope you like it.
Okay. All right. Cheers.
Thank you very much. Cheers, Keith. Thank you.
There's a whisper in the trees, the moon is on the crest. There's a chill in the air and a pounding in my chest. It isn't cause of love or the memory of your honey. It's in anticipation of the counting of the money. You said you'd meet me here in the middle of the night, but I bet Joey 50 that you wouldn't treat me right. Let me down, let me down, let me down. Mary had raven hair, her skin was white as snow, and everywhere that Mary went, this lamb was sure to go. She looked into my eyes and she emptied my head. I didn't know she was a spider till I fell into her web. And I woke up hanging from the highest tree, and there are two hungry children depending on me. Let me down, let me down, let me down. down. I'm on one side of the scales and you're sitting on the other. It was level as a lake when we started as lovers, and now I've been around longer than I thought I'd be, and I've let you get a little too stuck on me. Now you're as heavy as a promise, I'm as light as a pen, and it's getting hard to breathe where the air is so thin. Let me down, let me down, please let me down, let me down. The time's gonna come when there's no encore. Black angel with a scythe coming knocking on my door, saying grab what you need, it's time to go. Pete and JC are waiting at the show, gonna miss me when I'm not around, but there's a hole that's calling me deep in the ground. Let me down, let me down, let me down, let me down.